back to the Corporate Sustainability Education channel. We are your weekly educational podcast powered by the Southern Sustainability Partnership. So let's get into our fact for this episode. Unless you have your team on board, your corporate sustainability strategy could be on some very unstable ground. So we're going to use this podcast to get into the important role that training plays in sustainability when it comes to engaging your workforce. And to do so, we are absolutely delighted to have the expertise of Judith Ward, who is Director of Worldwide Wastewise, who are based in Dorset, UK. Now, this company has been delivering inspirational and affordable training for many years, and Judith herself has extensive experience in training in the fields of waste and resource management, health and safety, and construction, with impressive qualifications under her belt, which include MCIWM, NEBOSH Tech, and IOSH. Now, Judith is also a key part of a team who run the South Wessex Waste Minimisation Group in Dorset, which is a business support group that boasts a longevity of some 25 years. Judith, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Hello, Linda. Nice to be here.
Judith, when I've spoken to you before, you've pointed out that sustainability is not just a nice to have, and that they need to be far more responsible for their actions and their ideas and values. In fact, you go as far as to say that it's integral to their very survival of a business.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have talked long and hard about sustainability and what that means to various companies and how that is demonstrated. The message I'm getting loud and clear now through the various forums that I belong to is that the economy is no longer going to be linear. The systems that are in place, we can't afford it to be linear. It has to be circular now, and sustainability actually forms quite a large part of that circular economy. Not just about business systems, but social corporate responsibilities, just how we live our lives at the moment. I mean, the fact is that we are not living within our means, which is the very definition of sustainability. It's actually living within our means. And at the moment, we're getting through about 3 planets worth of resources, which begs the question, where are those other 2 planets coming from? How we are ramping our way through all these resources isn't sustainable. It means that future generations won't have access to the same resources that we currently do. And time is running out, as we keep hearing the message from David Attenborough and Greta Thunberg. You know, we need to be doing something now.
Yeah, so when businesses hear the term sustainability, I know you've pointed out before that it's always the environment that springs to mind, but there is the social sustainability aspect, of course. But however, no matter the content and focus of a strategy, without the support and enthusiasm of your workforce, it's likely to be a non-starter.
Yeah, a lot of businesses actually underappreciate their workforce, whereas really they're actually their biggest asset. And, you know, whatever changes they make within organisations, you have to bring your staff along with you, otherwise it simply won't happen. And businesses and companies these days, even consumers, are just wanting to deal more with companies who live and breathe their social responsibility policies. So, you know, it's about looking after your staff, it's your social responsibilities, it's improving conditions for them, improving communities, areas where you live as well. You know, it's very far-reaching, this sustainability. It's not just about the company, it's the wider beyond as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, our channel listeners might be thinking about this subject and assume that there's a lot to get on board with here, really. But you could argue as well that it's not really rocket science, it's just how it's structured and by following the basic rules, really, of human nature.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, sustainability can sound hard. A lot of companies that we deal with come to us because they say, we'd like to embrace and do something about it, but we don't know where to start. It isn't rocket science. If you break it down, it can be really quite simple to start with. I think it's about not being over ambitious initially, and taking things that you can do, getting small successes under your belt, and actually building upon those into something bigger. I mean, you know, things can start, things that can get into be quite big can start at very small levels, and like I said, grow and be built upon.
So when it comes to the workforce, and people might be thinking, what are the difficulties, the barriers really to getting everybody involved? Could you give us an idea of some of the barriers that you might have experienced?
Yeah, certainly when we go and do training, and a lot of the staff say, oh, you know, things weren't very well communicated to us. If we'd been brought along with the management, if people had explained it to us properly, if we knew our part to play, you know, things would have been a lot more successful. So I think communication is key. If management and CEOs want to move more into having a more socially responsible policy with sustainability at its heart, you've really got to go and talk to people rather than talking at them. It's not great. I mean, from what we've heard from the people on the ground, it's not great to be given a set of instructions as to you will go and sort the rubbish out in this way. And they don't do it well because they've not engaged with it. They don't understand the reasons why they're being asked to do these sort of things. And also, more success is brought with bringing people along with you rather than telling you. Or telling people what to do. So I would say communication, if you don't communicate, it will be harder. Other barriers we've heard from people who said, well, because I've got environment in my job description, I've had it lumped on the end of that for me. I don't know where to start. Other people say, you know, they don't feel that they can make a difference with a small part to play, and it's getting that encouragement and that, again, back into communication, letting people know that, you know, even great things happen on a very small level to start off with. I mean, you've only got to take Greta, for example. She did a placard, sat on the pavement outside her school and started protesting, and look where it's got her now. So, you know, it's and the analogy of you plant a seed and a tree grows, you know, it's doing a little bit at a time and doing things well and bringing people along with you, because otherwise people don't understand, don't engage, and that's the worst possible position to start something like this from.
Even the largest organisations out there haven't done everything and don't have all the answers. So just break it down like everything, and just don't see it as this big hole that you've got to get on board with, really. I know, Judith, you're a huge fan of a course that's tailor-made to support businesses, and it's called the Waste Smart course. So can you explain how this works and how it's structured?
Yeah, I mean, we're a training organisation primarily with, you know, with the waste management industry. We're Chartered Institute Waste Management members, and this is actually a CIWM course, which was designed a number of years ago to actually give people a starting point. So for all those companies who said, what do we do? How do we start things off? By actually training your staff, bringing them along with you, giving them some information and a reference point, it's very, very useful from that point of view. We've delivered it to a number of large organisations locally. We've trained with some waste management companies in Dorset. We've dealt with Southampton University, a number of hospital trusts as well, who've got porters collecting waste and things. So the whole thing is designed really to cut across all industries, all sectors, relevant to anybody who produces waste, and that's everybody. And it gives them a really good level of underpinning knowledge and understanding. It's based 2 levels. Foundation level really has 5 modules and is about a 5-hour course. Deals as waste as a resource, which is a fundamental starting point, because a lot of us think about waste as something to be thrown away with no value, where actually we need to be rethinking waste as a resource that we can do something with. We look at the environmental impact of waste, so how we generate it and obviously how we dispose of it. We look at the costs of actually managing waste, because we could go into a number of companies and say to the CEOs, how much does it cost to pay your staff, or how much does it cost to procure PPE or whatever? And they'd have figures at their fingertips, but you ask them about how much they're paying for their waste costs, and a lot of them don't have much of an idea how much they're spending on renting bins, getting them collected, maybe cleaned, replaced, that side of things. And we look at the hidden costs of waste as well, because they're very obvious costs. Hidden costs can be staff time. It might be to actually sort out the waste, finding space for storing waste separately, that side of things. So waste management can actually cost a company an awful lot of money if it's not done properly. So there's that appreciation. There's understanding and applying the waste hierarchy, starting obviously with preventing it in the first place, actually designing out waste. Can you procure things that actually don't have much packaging for us to deal with and treat? Then you look at, actually, can we reuse things? Then and only then should you be considering recycling, which a lot of people think is the actual starting point, and it's not. And then from that point on, we look at landfill costs and landfilling as an option, and also energy recovery and heat recovery from burning waste as well. So we look at all of those different options and what might be applicable for companies to actually choose. We also look at legislation and compliance just a little bit as well, because people need an appreciation of duty of care, which means that anybody who basically produces waste is responsible for it. And that might be, and that just isn't waving it goodbye at the end of the road and hoping someone takes it away and delivers it responsibly. That's making sure that you've got a registered carrier that comes along and picks up your waste. They take it to an authorized treatment facility. So you're tracking it and finding an audible trail. So that little bit there of part of the course is ensuring that the companies are operating legally and people know how to do that. And then there's a second part. So that's a course in its own right. So that's a foundation level. And that's generally for people who want to find out a bit more about waste and understand their role with it. Then there's the advanced level, which is another 3 modules on top of those existing 5. So that can be a full day's course. And that's more practically with people who want to, or in a position to make a real difference. So they're the people who could, for example, conduct a waste audit. So we have a whole module on that, teaching people how to actually go about doing that, because there's good and bad ways about doing waste audits. So that's one module. Second one is about how to identify opportunities to reduce waste in the workplace. So that's, again, looking around, looking at your procurement, looking around about how you can purchase more smartly than what you're currently doing. And then that is about the last unit is about managing resources and waste in the workplace, how to implement improvements, look at waste storage considerations. You might have hazardous wastes on site that you need to do, and looking at barriers and finding solutions. Because a lot of people think, yeah, I'd like to recycle or do something with that particular waste stream, and then start separating it and collecting it, and then thinking, oh, what do we do now with it? So with a lot of things, it's actually working backwards. It's finding what markets are out there and then sorting to those appropriate markets. But it's a really good course. It gives a lot of underpinning knowledge for people in a very understandable level, actually. And like I said, so you can stratify it with your staff as well. So those who just need to know some information about waste and why they're doing things, that's the foundation level, that's the 5 modules. Or if you want members of staff to be champions within the organisation, you'll actually go out and actually practically implement things, then the actual advanced level is for them.
So just throwing this one at you, Judith, obviously we're talking about engaging a workforce, and we're talking about something which is clearly the perfect way to start to to get on board with this and to find out what's needed, with the option of the advanced course as well, which is perfect because it's a continual process. But as well as the staff being involved in this course, would you say that, maybe senior management, the people that look after these staff should also really take part? Because,
Yeah.
that's the way that you can ensure that this continues, really.
Yeah, with anything, if you're going to make changes, crucially, leadership is at the centre of this. It's leading from the top. In my past life, I was recycling officer for a couple of councils, one a county council and one a local authority, well, two local authorities actually. And unless you have endorsement and leadership from the top, it will fail, because you need somebody to set the direction and the company's going, and make available resources, including financial resources as well.
Yeah, and like you say, if you're going to invest in training, at least they understand why they're being asked to spend that money,
Yeah, yeah,
and the benefits. Well, it's
yeah.
priceless, really.
And I
So
think everyone engaging together, I think it's good doing the training for everybody. So, within an organisation, somebody who represents senior management, maybe someone middle management, and those people who are actually doing it on the ground, then it sees that it's a whole organisation's responsibility, not just the people on the ground or whatever, or a couple of designated people, because then other people won't get engaged and it'll be really hard. It's all very well having a waste champion, but if people don't understand what they're actually about and what their role is, and why they're trying to achieve something, then it's not going to happen.
yeah, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. This is human nature that we're talking about here, and like you
Mm.
say, if everybody's involved, then there is that feeling of commitment. We're not expecting just to throw this at you. You understand it and we don't know what's going on, so it just makes perfect sense to me. So
Mm.
as a training provider, Judith, and you've come into a company and you've carried out this course, what's your ultimate aim, really, for a business when you leave them after having done this course?
Well, I always leave them with the message that it's not going to happen overnight. A lot of people expect great things from training, and it's true. Training can really kickstart something off. However, in order for it to be sustained, it's got to happen again and again and again. It's about using the training to set agendas, set smart targets, also to think about having the bigger conversation. And our training doesn't just stop as we walk out the door. We're always happy for a phone call or a chat about things. We're thinking about this, that, and the other. What do you reckon? I mean, in true circular economy fashion, don't reinvent the wheel. Lots of companies are doing things. There's lots of information out there as well. We can provide some case studies and some ideas of what people have done through the course. And we always try and make there is flexibility within the Waste Smart course. Although I said it's not sector specific, and it isn't, but we can contextualize a lot of examples. So say, for example, we're going into a composting company, we would contextualize our examples and give some case studies as to what other composting companies have actually done. So it gives a reference and a starting point to go, right, okay, well, they've tried this, that didn't work, but they've done this now subsequently, and that's great. So it means you can leapfrog the stuff that didn't work and go straight into the stuff that did work, because it's happened in an industry that's parallel to your own. So, it is that starter point. It's also about creating habits. Things aren't happening overnight just because we've gone in and done some training. Hopefully we've stimulated some conversations and started to help people design some strategies and way forward. But they've got to be sustained. So you've got to think about it in sort of, with your targets. By the end of the month, we will have hoped to have done X, Y, and Z. By this, that, and the other, by the end of the year, those sorts of things you need to be doing. And you need to be reminding people all the time. You need to be creating situations where they can engage, do something better with the waste that's created in the offices, for example. Pick something that's visual, like waste. I mean, sustainability goes a lot well beyond waste. You can then start looking at the carbon footprint of the company. You can start looking at energy sustainability. smart procurement, all of those sorts of things. But waste is very visible. So if you can get a very quick gain on changing habits and people starting to see a difference happening with something like waste, I mean, we've all got waste bins next to our desks. We've got some offices have them centrally in the middle of an open plan area. You know, they've got waste bins out in the car parks and things like that. We all see waste around us all the time. If we can see some sort of visual changes happening there, then that's something to build on and then take it further.
Yeah, and waste is a big subject, isn't it? I mean, people think
Mm.
about having a physical thing and throwing it away, but there's energy waste. There's a lot more to this, and I think
Mm.
that in getting on the right path and embarking on a strategy like this, where you bring your team in with the right training in the first place, we've seen it, you've seen it many times, how it changes the complete thinking of the company and its staff. It's like a snowball effect. The more you do, the more other ideas come up, and actually it changes the company, beyond recognition, in terms of,
Yeah.
the systems improve, costs reduced to run the business, and all that's all to the good. And I think with what we've
Mm.
all been through over the last 12 months, being more streamlined, reducing the cost of running your business, bringing less in so that you've got less waste out, has to be a really good strategy now, as much as it's ever been, really. So
Exactly. And waste can make a big difference, actually. You know, if you start doing that more smartly, that can have a real impact on the bottom line of a business. And that business have been struggling over the last year, and it's something that can be tackled in this period of recovery.
yes. Judith, over the years that I've known you and we've had conversations, I've always loved your passion for the cause. And so I was wondering if we could ask you a parting shot for our listeners who are thinking of dipping their toe in the water and adopting this type of strategy.
Um, I would think give it a go. I don't think we can now no longer afford not to, really. Sort of times and expectations are changing. We've got climate change very much in conversations. We've got circular economy coming in now. Lots of people know about that. It is possible to turn their corporate social policy into something that gives them a competitive edge as well. So, make it their USP. I mean, there are a lot of people and consumers out there that will look and do due diligence on a company. And if they've got something like that they've got a sustainable, policy, and I personally would rather choose a company who has invested into that side of things than somebody else doing exactly the same product. So I would say jump in, give it a go. It's as hard as you make it, basically. If you wanted, like I said, start small, start with something like your waste. Get those gains going there. It's very visible, not just to the staff, but to other people externally, to other stakeholders in the company as well. And there's a lot of help and support out there. Not just training is one part of it. And I would say it is a big part as well, because I'm invested in that. But we've seen the results of that. But like I said, lots of companies are doing it now. There's lots of case studies, lots of support out there. The Chartered Institute of Waste Management, for example, has just run a 2-day festival of circular economy. Lots of people are having conversations. Get on board and get involved.
Yes, I like how you've put that. And I think, give your business the edge, future proof your business. Absolutely. So, Judith, thank you so much for those extremely valuable insights. Really pleased that we've been able to get you to introduce the Waste Smart course to those who are not already aware of it, because I think if you're going to start, it's a great path to follow.
It
This
is,
is
yeah.
such an important subject to tackle. I think it's fair to say our listeners will understand that. And so we wanted to make sure that we don't just have you for this interview, this podcast. Judith has agreed to do a series with us, so we're absolutely delighted about that. They will be listed alongside this podcast so that you can see what's coming up in our series with Judith, and also you can have a look at the link to the Worldwide Wastewise website, so you can see what they do in terms of their courses. And also you can meet Judith in person on the 28th of October at the Big Sustainability Expo at St Mary's Stadium in Southampton. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.